Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and recently there's been an ever-increasing pressure to drag the culture war into video games. It would seem that activist journalism sites will make use of any and all pretext to attempt to push their agenda onto gamers, and the recent Overwatch incident is no different. As always, links to any sources used will be down in the description below. The entire controversy surrounds the esports persona Ellie that in December joined the Overwatch team Second Wind that compete in the league's official minors known as Overwatch Contenders. The result of an unknown signing with an esports team with a level 147 account caused a fair amount of stir and led to a large amount of speculation that the Ellie account was nothing more than a smurf account for an unknown pro player. There were threats of some attempting to dox the Ellie account in order to try and find out who this person really was, some suspecting it was the player known as Punisher. Then it was reported on the 3rd by multiple games journalism sites that the player Ellie had left Second Wind, citing continued harassment over her identity coupled with the pressure of being one of a very small number of female Overwatch pro players. This sentiment was also expressed by the Second Wind team owner Justin Hughes on Twitter, in which he expressed that people thought that Ellie was a symbol of empowerment, stating, "We had people acting like they'd found their messiah," and also stating that he felt the Overwatch community wasn't ready to view a player as just a player. On January 4th, Rod Slasher Breslow stated that in private messages with the person that was the quote face of Ellie was a 17-year-old girl, and that she was not good at Overwatch, and also that Second Wind players and management were not aware that this was all a sham. He continued on by stating that Blizzard was holding a meeting with Second Watch players and management over this issue. He then continued stating that Punisher was the player that everyone assumed to have played as Ellie, and that it was possible that more than one person played under her name. He then posted Discord screenshots of Punisher in private conversations with another Overwatch player, Katsui, discussing the Ellie Smurf account. Breslow also stated that in a phone conversation with Katsui, Punisher had also proposed a similar social experiment to her, and that Punisher had also allegedly asked several women in the Overwatch community as well. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not include the clip of Aspen stating that Ellie and Punisher were one and the same.
Alright, there's so much talk around this Ellie person, right? Feel free to clip whatever I say, I seriously don't care. Ellie is not Ellie, okay? Ellie is not Ellie. The whole situation was meant to be, in a way, like a social experiment. Ellie is actually Punisher, and he told me yesterday. So, there you go. Hello, Reddit. Yeah, Ellie is Punisher. He did this for like a social experiment thing and did not expect it to get out of hand, so that's kind of the juice around that. That's all the juice.
After the meeting with Blizzard, Second Wind posted a statement on Twitlonger in which they admitted their lack of any form of identity verification and a lapse in standards in that regard due to a feeling of desperation in finding a substitute player. The Second Wind also did provide confirmation from Blizzard that the Ellie account was indeed not who they claimed it to be, and that the account was used for, quote, purposes we do not support. And so that is the basic information as best as I can provide, hopefully without engaging in anything speculative in nature. We do have reports of more than one person independently verifying that Punisher has admitted to running the Ellie Smurf account, and it would seem that Blizzard's investigations would bear that out to be accurate. Unfortunately, there's still a huge mess to unpack here because of the perceived notion of women being unduly harassed in video games and all of that, so I want to go over a couple of things. Now, naturally, as one might expect, a great many people are still claiming that the harassment should have never taken place, and it doesn't matter at all that the account was a Smurf account. It was still a perceived female pro gamer being harassed, and that female harassment runs rampant, and it should not be tolerated in the gaming community as the worst and most toxic ever, which is also why so many social ideologues and zealots seem to be laser focused on injecting their authoritarian ideals into gaming at every turn. And when you take it at face value, while ignoring any and all context, it would appear that would be correct. If this was exactly as it had appeared, again, taking it at face value with no context whatsoever, it would seem to be a fair amount of undeserved harassment and conversely also an equally undeserved expectation for feminist ideals. However, the world is not so clear-cut. Now, we don't live in a vacuum, and not everything is as it can be taken at surface level. When you have a level 147 account storming up the ladder ranks, it raises eyebrows. The pro players themselves are all very well aware of each other, their mains, their preferred counters, and a lot more as they spend their days playing on ladder, mainly against each other as they vie for positioning in the rankings. When someone charges into their ranks like a bull in a china shop, it makes them take notice. Now, who is this person? Why do they have a brand new Twitter account? Why do they have no digital footprint whatsoever? Also, in regards to the accusations of hacking and boosting, I hate to break it to everyone, but that sort of thing is extremely common in the esports scene, and it most certainly isn't limited to female gamers. It is everywhere. And that actually leads me to online harassment in general. Now, all we ever hear is that women have it worse than men in that regard, with extremely anecdotal evidence being provided, never anything concrete. Yes, I'm sure women do get sexually harassed at a much higher rate than men, but that does not equate to greater levels of harassment in general. You see, those sort of people that engage in the harassing behavior all have a very similar mentality. Brave due to the anonymity that the internet affords, condescending, arrogant, selfish, self-centered, and disdainful of most others. Basically like me. Now, these are the type of people that will target others with statements and comments that they know will get a rise out of someone. They'll get a reaction out of them. They sexually harass women strictly because it works. It gets that reaction that they're looking for. Just the same as calling a man's masculinity and sexuality into question is traditionally a more effective means of getting a rise out of them. Everyone always looks at the concepts of situations like these while either being unwilling or merely incapable of employing any form of reason. Always merely reacting purely based upon an emotional standpoint. I'm going to let the rock, paper, shotguns and the Polygons and Kotakus of the world in on a little secret. Everyone gets harassed online. Everyone gets harassed in video games. Women do not receive a higher level of harassment. They merely receive different forms of harassment than men because that sort of harassment has been found by the trolls to be more effective. Men get harassed. Men get harassed differently than women because the insults, the invectives, and the derogatory terminology is geared to have a greater effect on men. Despite what the activist media would have people believe, gaming is already extremely inclusive. The vast majority of gamers just want to play their games. They also want to win, which is why people will be vitriolic against teammates that they feel are dragging them down or might prevent them from doing that. The internet is a toxic place. The social contract is not observed. I personally think it should be, but that is for people to decide for themselves. Forcing people to conform to what you subjectively believe to be proper behavior and conduct is by its very definition authoritarian, and to borrow a grossly overused term these days, it is fascistic in nature. No one should be the moral arbiter of good behavior. We have block functions. Most of those on the authoritarian left know this very well, as they block anyone who might even appear to possibly one day hold a contrarian opinion to them. We have mute functions, we have ignore, we have all sorts of functions built into online gaming, social media, and everything else on the internet that, for the most part, you can engage as little or as much as you would like. This constant hammering on gamers over something purely anecdotal, and by the way in this case built upon an incident of a literal sham, chicanery if you will, dare I say tomfoolery even, is absolutely idiotic. No one has ever changed another person's mind online by insulting them and berating them, and yet that sort of thing is what we see going on here. This sort of mentality is what gave rise to the bully hunters nonsense. It is plain foolishness. Unfortunately for gamers, most games publishers and developers have not only drank the Kool-Aid, they've filled their swimming pools with the stuff, and so that us versus them battle that we hoped would never come to pass seems to be potentially looming on the horizon. Most gamers just want to enjoy games. Male, female, trans, straight, gay, bi, whatever and what have you. People are all people, and most of us, not all but most, simply couldn't care less about what invisible man in the sky you worship, who you want to do, or what you want to be called. As long as gamers can be left to their own devices to play their games as they see fit, most of them will be quite content. Gaming is supposed to be an escape from the trials and tribulations of the everyday life. It is supposed to be a form of entertainment, not a battleground for social zealotry. Punisher claims this was a social experiment, but we all know exactly what it was. It was trolling, nothing more. Better than 9 times out of 10, if someone claims it was a social experiment, it's just an attempt to disguise the fact that they were trolling. But these sort of, quote, social experiments allow zealots and ideologues the perceived justification to try to make inroads and impose their beliefs onto others. Now, a lot of people ask me why I cover so many negative topics on my channel while some claim it's for the drama clicks. I'll tell you this. Video games and gaming is the single greatest form of entertainment and potential for creative expression the world has ever known. I love gaming. I love the Republic. And it is because of that firm belief I have regarding games and their potential for true greatness that I strive to do everything I can to protect this industry from itself. To protect against the severe predations of the AAA market, the subtle but gross insidious creep of the asset flippers and scam developers, and now it would seem against social identitarians and authoritarians that seek to turn gaming into their latest political battleground more and more with each passing day. Gamers should be less vitriolic to each other in my opinion, but that doesn't change the fact that no one has the right to tell a person how they should behave. I am not your parent, nor would I choose to be. And anyone that tells you that you should be forced to change your opinions and behaviors merely to conform to their subjective standards absolutely should be resisted at every turn. I firmly believe in personal responsibility when it comes to one's own behavior. All of this nonsense is not personal responsibility. It is an excuse for an attack against gamers. I would urge everyone not to fall for such weakly transparent attempts. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.